Hello there, welcome to Just About Space. You look up at the night sky, and the question comes to you with the quiet force of inevitability. If the universe is truly infinite, if it stretches endlessly in every direction, why isn't every patch of darkness filled with light? Why, instead of a blinding dome of brilliance, do we see a cold black canvas pierced by lonely stars? You would think that infinity should mean saturation, that the light of endless suns should overlap until the sky burns with a constant, unbroken glow. But it doesn't. It never has. And in that contradiction lies one of the most unsettling puzzles in all of astronomy. For as long as humans have watched the heavens, this paradox has been there, sitting in plain sight. Ancient storytellers tried to explain it with gods who pulled a veil across the heavens, or great fires that had yet to be lit. Astronomers from centuries past wrestled with the math, realizing that if the universe really were infinite and eternal, then every line of sight should eventually land on the surface of a star. And if that were true, the night sky should be no darker than the surface of the sun. Yet, you step outside, and darkness reigns. This is not just a trick of human eyes adjusting to dimness. The blackness is real, deep, and stubborn. It is the darkness of empty space, unlit by the countless stars that should be visible to us. That dissonance between what infinity suggests and what reality delivers is what became known as Olbers Paradox, a question so simple that a child could ask it, and yet so complex that it reaches to the very structure of the cosmos. To understand the answer, you must walk a long road. It will take you through the history of the universe, back to the moment light first appeared, and forward to the way our cosmic horizon cuts reality into what we can see and what will forever remain hidden. It will require thinking about light not as a static glow but as something born, traveling, aging, and finally fading into invisibility. You will see that the blackness above is not an absence but a record, a map of time and space telling you that even in infinity there are limits. So tonight, as the stars shimmer faintly above and the great void stretches beyond them, you will begin to see that darkness for what it is, not just the backdrop of the universe, but a clue to its age, its shape, and its future. The night sky is not black because the universe is empty. It is black because of how the universe began and because of how it will end. You imagine standing in a universe that truly matches the textbook idea of infinity, not the subtle, curved space-time our telescopes reveal, but an endless, eternal expanse filled uniformly with stars. In this imagined reality, no matter which direction you look, your gaze eventually meets the surface of a star. Some would be close enough to burn white-hot in your vision. Others would be smaller and dimmer from sheer distance, but their light would still reach you, and the light of each one would stack atop the light of every other. Shadows would be impossible. Darkness would be erased entirely. The entire sky would blaze with the intensity of a solar surface, not because you were near one star, but because the cumulative glow of all stars would fuse into a constant searing field of light. It is a strange thought, to realize that if infinity were left unchecked, night itself could not exist. The cosmos would be as bright as day, every moment of your life. There would be no cool quiet under a canopy of blackness. There would be no mystery in the spaces between points of light. The stars, instead of being islands in a dark sea, would merge into one overwhelming flood. The romance of night would be annihilated by raw, unyielding brightness. But that's not what we see when we step outside. We see a sky that is mostly void. This tells you something immediately. Either the universe is not infinite, or it is not unchanging, or the light has not had enough time to get here. This is the first crack in the illusion, that infinite means all visible. Olbers Paradox, named after the 19th century German astronomer Heinrich Wilhelm Olbers, crystallized this problem, but the riddle is far older than him. Kepler pondered it in the 1600s, wondering why the heavens were not ablaze. Edmund Halley, the same Halley who charted the comet that bears his name, wrestled with the same question. They all came to the same troubling conclusion. Something in our assumptions about the cosmos had to be wrong. If the universe had existed forever, filled evenly with stars, the sky could never be dark. The core of the paradox is simple geometry and physics. Imagine space divided into concentric spherical shells around you. Each shell is farther away than the last, but it contains more stars simply because it covers more volume. The farther out you go, the more stars each layer contains. And though each star in a farther shell looks dimmer due to distance, the sheer number of them in that shell would balance out the dimming exactly. Shell after shell, the total brightness would stay the same. Multiply this by infinite shells, and you get an infinite brightness, a sky as blinding as the sun. But we do not live in that reality, and the reasons for this tell the story of our actual universe, a universe that had a beginning, that is expanding, and that hides much of itself behind the curtain of time. The first reason is time itself. The night sky is not black because there aren't enough stars. It is black because the light from most of them has not yet had time to arrive. The universe is roughly 13.8 billion years old. Light travels fast, 300,000 kilometers per second, but not infinitely fast. This speed limit means that the observable universe is a finite bubble around us, with a radius of about 46 billion light-years when you factor in cosmic expansion. Anything beyond that bubble may exist, but its light has not yet reached us. The blackness above is not empty space. It is the visual frontier of time. Then there is the expansion itself. As space stretches, the light traveling through it is stretched too, its wavelength elongated by what we call redshift. A photon that left a star billions of years ago may have begun as visible light, but by the time it reaches us, the expansion has stretched it into the infrared or even the microwave part of the spectrum, wavelengths our eyes cannot see. This is why much of the light from the early universe is invisible to us. The cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang, is an ocean of ancient light that fills all of space, but it is so redshifted and so faint that to human eyes it may as well be darkness. And finally, there is dust. Not the soft dust you find on a bookshelf, but cosmic dust, grains of carbon, silicates and ice drifting between stars. This dust absorbs and scatters visible light, dimming the stars behind it. But here's the catch. Over infinite time, even this dust would heat up and glow, contributing to the brightness. In a truly eternal universe, dust could not hide the paradox. It would simply re-radiate the absorbed light back into space, which tells us again the universe is not eternal. It had a beginning, and its darkness is proof of that. The blackness you see is not the absence of infinity. It is the evidence of limits. It is the shadow cast by the finiteness of time, the speed of light, and the expansion of space. Every point of darkness is a place where the universe has yet to deliver its light, or where light has been stretched beyond human sight. This is where the paradox becomes more than a scientific curiosity. It becomes a philosophical question about perception and reality. When you look at the night sky, you are not seeing the universe as it is. You are seeing a time-stitched fragment of it, a layered fossil of photons that have traveled across epochs to find you. The black gaps are not empty. They are places where time has not yet finished its delivery, where the story is still in transit. So, the next time you stand beneath the stars, remember that the darkness above is not a void to be feared, nor a canvas waiting to be painted. It is already painted, in wavelengths your eyes cannot see, in galaxies whose light will never reach you, in the stretched and faded glow of a universe still unfolding. You are standing on the edge of what can be known, looking outward at the border between the visible and the forever hidden. And if the universe truly is infinite, then somewhere beyond that darkness, the sky does blaze in all directions. You just live in a pocket of time where that infinity hasn't yet revealed itself. The night sky's blackness is not a contradiction. It's a promise that there is more out there than you will ever see. To understand why the darkness exists at all, you have to go back. far beyond the first stars, far beyond the swirling galaxies and bright nebulae, to a time when there was no light at all. In the beginning, the universe was not dark in the way you know darkness now. It was a blinding white fog, so dense and so hot that photons could not travel freely. They were born and immediately scattered, trapped in a crowd of particles that collided endlessly. It was not a place with a sky in any sense. There was no space to look through, only a uniform haze of energy, opaque and all-consuming. This state lasted for hundreds of thousands of years after the Big Bang. Space was expanding and cooling, but for a long time it was still too hot for atoms to exist. Protons and electrons roamed freely, charged particles bouncing off one another and forcing light to ricochet in every direction. In this era, photons had no straight path. They were imprisoned in the crowd, constantly interacting with matter. If you were somehow there to witness it, you wouldn't see darkness. You wouldn't see anything at all, because seeing requires light to travel unimpeded to your eyes. Then, something changed. About 380,000 years after the Big Bang, the temperature of the universe dropped low enough for electrons and protons to combine into neutral hydrogen atoms. This moment, called recombination, was the great unlocking. With no more free electrons to scatter them, photons were suddenly free to travel across space without constant interruption. The universe became transparent. Light could finally move in straight lines. That first light still exists today. It has been traveling for nearly 14 billion years, stretched by the expansion of space until its wavelengths have shifted into the microwave range. We call it the cosmic microwave background, the faint afterglow of the universe's birth. It fills the cosmos in every direction, uniform and silent, invisible to human eyes. If your eyes could see microwaves, the night sky would never be black again. It would be awash with a soft, uniform glow, the ghost of a moment when darkness itself had to be invented. But here's the thing. After recombination, the universe was not immediately filled with stars. For millions of years after that first light escaped, there were no sources of new light at all. Space was vast and dark, filled with only cold hydrogen and helium. Gravity was at work, pulling matter together, but it was a slow process. The first stars, the titans we now call population 3 stars, would not form until about 100 to 200 million years later. When they did appear, they were nothing like the stars you see today. They were massive, burning thousands of times brighter than the sun, and they lived fast, dying in spectacular supernova explosions after only a few million years. These first stars flooded the universe with ultraviolet light, beginning a new era called reionization. This light tore apart hydrogen atoms, making the universe more transparent still. From then on, starlight began to carve itself into the darkness, and the familiar pattern of galaxies, clusters, and cosmic filaments began to emerge. But even after the first stars ignited, the sky would not have been ablaze in all directions. The distances between galaxies were immense. The light from the farthest ones was already taking billions of years to reach anywhere, and expansion was at work from the very beginning, ensuring that the farther a galaxy was, the faster it receded from its neighbors. This was the birth of the horizon, a limit to how far we can see, not because space ends there, but because light beyond that point can never catch up to us. Imagine holding a flashlight and walking away from someone at an ever-accelerating pace. Even though you are shining light toward them, at some distance the expansion of space between you and them will carry you away faster than the light can close the gap. That light will never arrive. It is not blocked. It is not absorbed. It is simply lost to a space that is stretching too quickly. That's what happens with much of the light in the universe. It is forever beyond our reach, stranded outside our cosmic event horizon. And so, the darkness is not just about time or about the absence of enough stars. It is also about the speed at which the universe is leaving parts of itself behind. We are sitting in a finite window of visibility inside an infinite space, and most of the light that could exist will never be seen from here. The sky is black, not because infinity doesn't exist, but because we are locked inside a slowly shrinking bubble of what we can witness. Even within our bubble, not all light survives the journey to our eyes. Some is absorbed by interstellar dust, never to be replaced in its original form. Some is stretched into invisibility, joining the microwave background in a wavelength we can only detect with special instruments. And some is cut short by the deaths of the stars that made it, their last photons racing across space long after the stars themselves have burned out. When those photons finally pass us by, the sources that created them are gone, leaving only their light as a memory. This makes every star you see a kind of time traveler. The light of Sirius left just over 8 years ago. The glow of Betelgeuse has been on its way for over 600 years. Some of the dimmest points in the night sky are galaxies whose light began its journey when there were still dinosaurs on Earth, and beyond them lie galaxies whose light will never arrive because the space between us grows too quickly. When you look at the night sky now, you are seeing a layered history of the universe, stacked in distance and time. The darkness between those layers is not a flaw in the system. It is the unlit gap between epochs, the shadow of expansion, the absence of sources close enough for their photons to reach you. The blackness is a map, not of where nothing exists, but of where nothing has yet been seen. And in a strange way, that blackness is necessary. Without it, there would be no contrast for the stars to stand out against. The sky would be a featureless sheet of light, with no way to tell one point from another. We would lose the ability to navigate, to imagine, to wonder at the individual beauty of a single star. The universe would still exist, but the poetry of night would be gone. Darkness gives structure to light. Without it, the cosmos would be blinding, and empty in a very different sense. So the sky is black because the universe had a beginning, because light has a speed, because expansion keeps most of the cosmos forever out of view, and because the first stars had to wait to ignite. Every moment of darkness above you is a moment in history where no light could ever have been there for you to see. When you step outside tonight, remember that you are standing in the middle of this long, unfolding process. The darkness is not just around you. It is behind you, ahead of you, and woven into the very structure of space-time. It is as much a part of the universe as the stars themselves. And it is still growing. The night sky is not fixed. It changes not just in the daily rotation of the Earth or the slow drift of constellations over centuries, but in the deeper, almost imperceptible changes that occur as the universe itself ages. Every point of light you see is temporary. Every patch of darkness is in motion. The balance between light and shadow is shifting in a direction you may not expect toward more darkness, not less. It feels counterintuitive. We are told that stars are being born all the time, that galaxies are alive with the glow of countless suns. Surely, if time marches forward, more light will fill the sky, not less. But the truth is stranger. The expansion of the universe is not slowing down. It is accelerating, and as it accelerates, it carries galaxies away from us faster and faster. Over immense timescales, that acceleration wins. The light from many galaxies we can see today will in the far future no longer be able to reach us. They will cross the event horizon of our observable universe, vanishing not in an instant but fading into redshift until they disappear from human sight forever. Imagine a familiar constellation, perhaps Orion, and know that given enough time it will unravel, not just from the slow shifting of nearby stars but from the complete vanishing of its most distant members. The bright shoulder of Betelgeuse, the belt stars, the hunter's knees, some will remain, others will slip away. Eventually, constellations will lose their patterns entirely. The sky will become emptier. The great chains of galaxies we see through telescopes today will be gone, not because they ceased to exist, but because the accelerating fabric of space has hidden them beyond reach. This is not a poetic metaphor. It is a direct consequence of general relativity and the mysterious force we call dark energy. Dark energy is the driver of this acceleration, an invisible pressure that counteracts gravity and stretches the universe faster with each passing moment. If dark energy continues to behave as it does now, the observable universe will become smaller in terms of what is accessible, even though space itself continues to grow without bound. You can think of it like a ship sailing away across an ocean. At first, the light from its lantern still reaches you. As it gets farther, the light grows dim, but with patience you could still watch it for a long time. Now imagine the ocean itself is expanding between you and the ship. At a certain point, no matter how bright the lantern is, its light can never reach you. The ship keeps sailing, but for you it has effectively ceased to exist. That is what will happen to most galaxies over the next tens of billions of years. The most distant galaxies we can see now are already halfway to this fate. Their light has traveled for more than 13 billion years to reach us, stretched and reddened along the way. In time, those wavelengths will grow too long for even our most sensitive instruments to detect. The galaxies will not wink out in a single moment. They will fade slowly like the last embers of a fire drifting into cold ash. What remains will be the galaxies bound to us by gravity, the local group, and even those will not last forever. Our Milky Way and the Andromeda Galaxy are on a slow collision course, set to merge in about 4 billion years. The result will be a vast elliptical galaxy, its stars rearranged into new orbits, its night sky utterly transformed. Any beings alive then will look up and see a different kind of beauty, a sky where Andromeda's core dominates the view, larger and brighter than the moon appears to us now. But beyond that brilliant foreground, fewer and fewer distant galaxies will remain. Fast forward trillions of years, and the night sky changes again. Star formation will slow as the gas in galaxies is used up or lost to space. The bright young stars will die first, leaving behind longer-lived red dwarfs, glowing faintly for hundreds of billions of years. Eventually, even these will fade. The universe will enter an era of dim embers, white dwarfs cooling into black dwarfs, neutron stars radiating their last heat, and planets drifting in cold silence. The darkness between these remnants will be absolute. And still, the expansion continues. Even the faint microwave glow of the cosmic background will be stretched until its wavelength is longer than the size of the observable universe. The darkness will no longer just be between stars. It will be all-encompassing. Light itself will be a rare and precious thing, trapped close to its sources. Beyond those islands of faint glow, the ocean of space will be utterly black. This is why the paradox, the question of why the night sky is dark, is not just about the present, it is about the future. The darkness we see now is not a temporary condition waiting to be filled in. It is the beginning of a trend toward more darkness. As the expansion of the universe isolates us from more and more of its light, the paradox is not solved once and for all. It is deepened by the fact that what little we can see now is temporary. There's something profoundly human about staring into the night sky knowing it will one day vanish. We are alive in a privileged era, billions of years after the first stars lit up the darkness, but billions of years before the last light fades away. We stand in the middle of the universe's brief season of illumination, looking both backward into a time when the sky was far darker, and forward into a time when it will be darker still. When you gaze at the blackness between the stars tonight, you are not just seeing the limits of light's reach, you are seeing the direction in which the cosmos is headed. You are glimpsing its future solitude, its growing isolation, its slow retreat into silence. And you are part of that story, a witness to the age when the universe still shared its light freely, before it began to keep it for itself. It is easy to think of darkness as nothingness, but in the context of the cosmos, darkness is history, geography, and prophecy all at once. It marks the boundaries of your vision in space and in time. It shows you the scale of your own existence, not in miles or years, but in photons, the rare, precious particles that happen to have crossed the gulfs between galaxies to arrive here, now in your eyes. Every star you see is an act of improbable luck. Every one you don't is a reminder of the vastness that remains unseen. And so the sky is black, not because the universe is empty, not because there is no light, but because you are here in a moment between two infinities, the infinite darkness before the first light, and the infinite darkness after the last. Picture yourself in the far future, not centuries or millennia ahead, but trillions of years from now, when the timeline of human history is so deeply buried beneath the strata of cosmic time that it is no more than a faint echo in the physics of an ancient planet. You stand on a world that orbits one of the last remaining stars. It is a small, cool red dwarf, the kind that burns its fuel slowly, stretching its life across hundreds of billions of years. Its light is dim, a warm ember in a vast ocean of cold. The shadows it casts are long and soft, not the sharp-edged contrasts of a sunlit Earth. When you look up, the sky is emptier than you could ever imagine. There are no great spirals of galaxies drifting overhead, no delicate scatter of constellations. The Milky Way, or whatever merged remnant of it still exists, is a faded smear across the black. The rest of the universe has gone dark to your eyes, not because it ceased to exist, but because the accelerating expansion has pulled it beyond your cosmic horizon. All the grand tapestries of distant galaxies have vanished into wavelengths too long for any living creature to see. The blackness above you is more complete than any night sky in the history of the cosmos. It is a darkness so pure that your mind struggles to anchor itself. On present-day Earth, even the most isolated wilderness is filled with faint glows. The sweep of the Milky Way, the twinkle of scattered stars, the soft luminescence of atmospheric light. But here there is nothing beyond your own star's gentle light. It is as if you are adrift in an endless starless ocean, with only the faintest lantern to keep you company. Yet, in this silence, there is still a strange beauty. The darkness feels infinite, but you know that somewhere out there, beyond the walls of your observable world, light still exists, forever traveling but never arriving. The thought is bittersweet. The universe has not ended, but your contact with most of it has. The isolation is permanent. As your eyes adjust, you notice that even the space around your red dwarf is not as still as it seems. Here and there, the faint glow of a dying white dwarf might appear, a relic of a once bright star cooling over eons. Perhaps a distant neutron star sends out a heartbeat of radio waves, a ghostly pulse in the emptiness. But these are rare sights, scattered far apart in a void that is otherwise absolute. If you wait long enough, far longer than the human mind was ever meant to measure, even your red dwarf will exhaust its fuel. Its glow will fade to a deep crimson, then to a dull cherry ember, and finally to a cold black dwarf, radiating no visible light at all. Your world will be plunged into a darkness that is not just absence but permanence. And yet, the universe is not truly empty. Around you, unseen in the dark, there will still be matter, planets wandering starless frozen gas giants drifting in exile, black holes prowling silently. The darkness hides them, but they are there, moving slowly in the great gravitational ballet of a cosmos without light. If you were to step beyond the limits of your own eyes and use instruments tuned to wavelengths far longer than visible light, you might catch the faint hum of the cosmic background radiation, stretched now to wavelengths so immense they wash across your world like a tide too slow to feel. This radiation is the oldest light in the universe, born when it was only hundreds of thousands of years old. It has been stretched and diluted until it is colder than the deepest interstellar void, but it is still there, a ghost of a time when the cosmos was young and brilliant. This future sky, almost perfectly black, is the final answer to Olbers Paradox. Not just why the sky is dark now, but why it will remain dark, and why it will grow even darker still. The darkness is the natural state of the universe. The brief era of light, the age you and I know, is an exception, a fleeting spark in an ocean of night. Standing in that far future, you might wonder if the creatures alive then will know what the universe once looked like. Will they have records of galaxies beyond their horizon, or will the evidence have been erased by time? lost to entropy and decay? Will they even be able to guess that there was once a time when the sky blazed with billions of suns? Perhaps they will invent their own myths about the darkness, stories to explain why light is so rare, why the universe is so silent. The paradox that troubles you now may not trouble them at all. For them, there will be no contradiction in a black sky. It will simply be the way things are, the only truth they have ever known. The night will not be something to explain. It will be the very definition of existence. And yet, here you are, alive in the bright middle age of the universe. You stand under a sky that still carries the fingerprints of its beginnings, still scattered with galaxies that have not yet slipped away. You can still see the stars that will one day fade, and you can still imagine what it will be like when they do. You are part of a rare, luminous chapter in an otherwise dark story. When you go outside tonight, and the darkness arches above you, know that it is not absolute. It is not yet the final darkness. It is still perforated with windows into the distant past, still alive with light that began its journey billions of years ago. The blackness is a reminder of your place in time, close enough to the beginning to see its traces, far enough from the end to watch the last embers burn. The universe is infinite, and the sky is black because you are here at a moment between eternities, a moment when light still walks beside you, even as the darkness waits ahead. You lie back on the cool ground, the weight of your body sinking into the earth, and let your gaze drift upward. The night is clear, and the air is still enough to feel almost weightless. Your breathing slows, matching the rhythm of the distant crickets or the faint hum of the wind against leaves. Above you, the stars burn quietly, small, steady fires scattered across a black sea. They seem so far away that their light feels less like something reaching toward you and more like something simply existing, indifferent to whether you notice it or not. You trace familiar shapes in the constellations, Orion's belt, the curve of the Big Dipper, and realize that the lines you draw in your mind are illusions. These stars are not neighbors in space, only neighbors in your vision. They are separated by unthinkable distances, some closer than you imagine, some so far that the light left before humanity even existed. The darkness between them is not empty. It is not a void where nothing resides. It is the space between times, the gap between what has happened and what can ever reach you. And then the question returns, the one that keeps astronomers awake at night, the one that has been whispered under skies for centuries. If the universe is truly infinite, why isn't it ablaze? If the stars go on forever, why doesn't their light fill every shadow? Why can you still see blackness at all? Your mind drifts back to what you've learned. The limits of the speed of light, the expansion of the universe, the youth of the first stars. You remember that even in an infinite universe, infinity takes time to reveal itself. You picture light as something fragile, a message in a bottle tossed into a cosmic tide. Some bottles reach you, others are still adrift, and most are carried away faster than they can ever arrive. The blackness is not a sign of absence, it's a sign of distance. Distance in space, yes, but also distance in time. The sky is not a picture of now, it is a patchwork of thens, a collection of different moments stitched together into one scene. Every point of light is from a different year, a different age, a different chapter of the universe's history, and every shadow is a place where that history has not yet, and may never, be told. As you lie there, you imagine peeling back the darkness layer by layer. In the nearest layer, you see the faint glow of stars within your own galaxy. Behind them, you imagine the soft smears of distant galaxies, their spirals too dim to detect with naked eyes. Behind those, you know there are galaxies whose light is red-shifted into the infrared, invisible to you but still traveling. And behind those, the first galaxies, small and wild and newborn, their light stretched so far that it lies now in the microwave background. Beyond that, darkness. Not because there is nothing, but because the universe has hidden it beyond the limits of sight. You close your eyes and imagine standing at the edge of that visible bubble, the cosmic horizon, looking out into the unseeable. You imagine what it would be like if space were not expanding. If you could stand there and truly see infinity, it would be unbearable, a blinding field of light from every direction, no contrast, no shapes, no shadows. The night would be erased. When you open your eyes again, you are grateful for the darkness. Without it, the stars would not be stars. They would be swallowed into a single, undifferentiated blaze. The black sky is the canvas that makes every point of light precious. It is the frame that makes the picture visible. You inhale slowly, and the air smells faintly of earth and stone. Somewhere nearby, water drips. A small sound in the stillness. You imagine that same stillness stretched across the galaxy, between worlds, between stars. You imagine what it would be like to travel through it, to pass through the darkness with no sound, no wind, no up or down. The silence of space is not the silence of a quiet room. It is the silence of absence, the silence of a place where sound has no medium to travel through. And yet, in that silence, light still moves. The longer you watch, the more you see. Faint stars you hadn't noticed before, subtle hints of the Milky Way like mist rising from a distant field. It's easy to forget that you're looking into the past, that every flicker is a memory, not a live broadcast. And in that thought, the paradox sharpens again. There should be more memories. There should be enough to fill every gap. But the universe guards most of its memories in places you can never reach. And so you lie there, suspended between the glow of what you can see and the dark of what you can't. The cool ground beneath you, the warm pulse of your own body, the immeasurable void above, all of it part of the same universe, all of it connected by the same rules. You are small in it, yes, but not apart from it. The black sky is not just over your head, it is inside you, in the atoms forged in long-dead stars, in the spaces between your cells, in the quiet places where thought and breath meet. The night deepens. A star slips behind the horizon. The Earth's slow rotation changes the view, and new constellations rise. The darkness remains. It is patient, older than light, older than stars, older than the questions you ask beneath it. And it will be here long after the last answer fades. You close your eyes under the night sky, and when you open them again, the stars are gone. Not because you moved, but because time has. The world around you dissolves, not in chaos, but in a slow, steady unmaking. The ground beneath you softens into vapor, the trees pull apart into their atoms, and even the air loses its shape. You are falling, not through space, but through history. The constellations overhead shift as you descend, their familiar shapes warping into patterns no human has ever seen. Bright stars flare into youth, then fade as they collapse back into the clouds of gas from which they were born. You pass billions of years in moments. The Milky Way shrinks, its arms tightening like a spiral pulled inward by an unseen hand. Galaxies that once stood in the background fade, their light retreating into deeper and deeper red, then vanishing altogether as they no longer exist in your time. The universe is younger now, smaller, denser, hotter. The darkness above you changes texture. It is still black, but it feels closer, as if there is less room for it to stretch between the points of light. You keep falling, and the stars thin out. The sky begins to empty in earnest, not because the light can't reach you, but because the stars themselves have not yet been born. The last points of light you see are the oldest galaxies, small, irregular things clinging together in the gravity of a younger cosmos. Then even these are gone. Now you are in the great cosmic night, before the first sunrise, a universe filled only with hydrogen and helium, cooling from the unimaginable heat of its birth. There are no stars to guide you here, no planets, no life. The blackness is perfect and unbroken. This is not the darkness you know from Earth, a darkness lit by the moon, by cities, by the faint mist of the Milky Way. This is the original darkness, the unlit canvas of space, before any star dared to burn. It is strangely peaceful. Space is quiet, but it is not still. Gravity is at work in the shadows, gathering matter into invisible knots. Slowly, invisibly, these knots grow, compressing under their own weight until the first stars ignite. They do not appear one at a time. They arrive in clusters, a sudden blossoming of light scattered across the cosmos. You stop falling and hover in this moment, the first dawn of the universe. The new stars are enormous, many times the size of the sun you once knew, and they burn with a brightness that would be unbearable up close. They flood their surroundings with radiation, tearing apart the hydrogen around them and pushing back the darkness. But the universe is vast, and for now, the light does not reach far. Between these scattered beacons, the blackness remains, deep and untouched. You realize something important. Even here, at the birth of the first stars, the sky is not filled with light. The seeds of the paradox are already sown. The universe has a beginning, and that beginning sets a boundary. Light takes time to travel, and no matter how many stars are born, there will always be a horizon, a limit to what can be seen. Darkness is not an afterthought. It is part of the design. You let yourself drift closer to one of these first stars. Its surface is turbulent, boiling with energy, its color an intense blue-white. Around it, primitive galaxies are forming, ragged gatherings of stars and gas bound together in rough shapes. There are no spiral arms yet, no elegant structure, just raw clusters in the making. These will grow into the galaxies of your own time, but that is hundreds of millions of years away. From here, you look outward again. The horizon of light is expanding, but slowly. Much of the universe is still invisible, not because it is hidden behind dust or because space is expanding too fast, but simply because not enough time has passed for light to make the journey. If you could see the whole thing laid out at once, it would look like a vast glowing bubble in an endless black sea, the inside lit by newborn stars, the outside still in shadow. The bubble grows, and you grow with it, rising now through time instead of falling. You see more galaxies take shape. The first great clusters appear. Filaments of matter stretch across the cosmos, connecting bright knots like threads in a vast web. The darkness between them becomes more intricate, no longer uniform but shaped by the geometry of space itself. Billions of years pass in heartbeats. Galaxies collide and merge. Stars live and die, scattering heavier elements into the void, paving the way for planets, for chemistry, for life. The darkness retreats in some places, advances in others, always shifting but never disappearing entirely. Even in this growing universe, with its flowering complexity, the paradox holds. Light fills much, but not all. The sky remains black, even as the number of stars explodes. You finally emerge into the present. The constellations click back into their familiar positions. The air returns. The ground beneath you solidifies. The night is just as you left it. The same black dome scattered with light, and yet it feels different now. You've seen what lies beneath it. The cosmic night before the first stars, the slow awakening of light. The inevitability of darkness even in an infinite cosmos. You know now that the blackness is not an empty accident. It is a record of the universe's history, a shadow cast by its youth, its expansion, and the limits of time itself. And knowing this doesn't make the sky less mysterious, it makes it more so. You lie back once more, and the stars look older, wiser. They are no longer just points of light. They are survivors, messengers, each one carrying news from a different corner of the past. And in the blackness between them, you can almost hear the silence of the spaces where light has yet to arrive, or will never arrive at all. You feel the pull of the horizon before you see it. It's not a physical tug, not something that grips your body, but an awareness, a growing sense that you are nearing the place where the visible ends and the hidden begins. You are floating now, far from Earth, far from any planet or star. The galaxies are behind you, small points of light scattered across an unimaginably vast expanse. Ahead of you, the darkness thickens. The edge of the observable universe is not a wall. There is nothing there to touch. It is not even in one place. It is everywhere, wrapped around you in a perfect sphere. From this vantage point, it feels like standing on the inside of a vast bubble. Within the bubble, light exists. Stories exist. Time exists. Beyond it they may too, but they have never reached you, and they never will. You drift closer, and the last traces of light grow faint. Galaxies here are dim smudges, their light so redshifted it is almost beyond sight. They are not different from the galaxies nearer to you, only older in the way they appear. Their light began its journey billions of years ago, when the universe was young, when stars were more numerous and galaxies more tightly packed. Now that light has stretched so far that it hums on the edge of visibility, like the faintest whisper in a language you can barely understand. And then there is nothing. No faint smears, no background haze, no sound, no motion, no color. The darkness here is not like the darkness of a moonless night on Earth. That darkness still has depth. It holds the Milky Way, planets, air that glows faintly with scattered sunlight. This darkness has no depth at all. It is a surface without texture, the visual equivalent of silence. You look into it and it feels like it is looking back at you, not with malice or welcome, but with complete indifference. You know the truth. Beyond this horizon, there are likely more galaxies than within it. More stars, more planets, more light. But the accelerating expansion of the universe is carrying them away faster than their light can close the gap. Every second, more of them slip beyond reach, vanishing not into destruction but into isolation. The universe is not getting smaller, but your share of it is. You imagine taking a single step forward, not that there is anywhere to step to, and you realize it would change nothing. Crossing the horizon is impossible. It is not a location you can reach, but a limit you carry with you everywhere you go. Even if you traveled for 1 billion years, the horizon would still be ahead of you, always just beyond sight. It is the shape of your prison, if you can call it that. A prison made not of walls but of the laws of physics. Still, there is something strangely beautiful about this edge. It is honest. It does not pretend to be something you can conquer. It reminds you that seeing is not the same as knowing, and that knowing is not the same as owning. The galaxies within your reach are gifts, temporary and fragile. The ones beyond will remain mysteries forever, their light destined to fade before it arrives. You float there for a long time, watching the faintest galaxies wink out one by one. It is not a sudden vanishing, but a gradual slipping, like the tide pulling back from a shoreline. You can almost feel the moment when their light is no longer for you, when the wavelength stretched too far, when the message is lost. It is a quiet kind of loss, the kind that leaves no scar except the awareness that the universe is always moving away from you. Turning back toward the inside of the bubble, you see the vast structure of what is still visible. Clusters of galaxies strung together like beads on invisible threads, filaments of matter weaving the large-scale web of the cosmos. Between them lie great voids, expanses of space almost entirely empty of galaxies. Even here, inside the visible universe, darkness dominates. The stars and galaxies are islands, and the blackness between them is the true ocean. You realize that the paradox you began with, why the sky is black, was never really about infinity. It was about connection. Infinity may exist, but connection does not. You can only see what has touched you, what has shared its light with you in the time the universe has been alive. Everything else is a closed door, a locked book, a story written in a language you will never read. You start to drift back, carrying the horizon with you as you go. The galaxies grow brighter again, closer, more familiar. The Milky Way appears, an island of light hanging in the dark, its spiral arms stretching like gentle waves. You pass between its stars, feeling the warmth of nearby suns, the glow of nebula, the quiet cold of the space between. Finally, the Earth is before you again, turning slowly in the black, wrapped in its fragile film of air. The night here feels different now. The darkness above is not emptiness, not absence. It is the shape of the universe's generosity and its limits. Every star you see is a survivor. Every one a reminder that some light can make the journey. And every shadow is a reminder of how much will never arrive. You lie back once more, your feet on the ground, the edge of the observable universe now tucked neatly back into its place above you. The sky is black because you are not everywhere. It is black because the universe is not timeless. It is black because light, for all its speed, is still too slow for infinity. And somehow, knowing that makes the stars more precious. They are not inevitable. They are not guaranteed. They are brief, lucky intersections of time and distance, scattered in the darkness that will always be greater. You are on your back again, the ground solid beneath you, the air cool against your skin. The horizon is a faint curve, lined with the silhouettes of trees or mountains. It doesn't matter which. Above you, the dome of the sky stretches without edges. You know now that it is not a dome at all, that it is not even above in the way your senses tell you. But for this moment, you let yourself believe it. The stars are still there, scattered in patterns that seem unchanging, even though you know they are not. The darkness feels thicker now that you have been to its edge. You have seen it not just as a background, but as a presence, something with structure and meaning. It is not simply where the light is not. It is where the light has not yet been, or where it once was, but can no longer remain. It is space and time combined into a single absence. You focus on a single star. Its light seems steady, but you know it is anything but constant. The photons leaving its surface travel unbothered for years, decades, centuries, crossing gulfs of space until they find your eyes. Each one is a survivor of countless chances to be scattered, absorbed, bent away. The fact that you see it at all means it has threaded a perfect path through a universe that is not empty, arriving here now to end its journey. You shift your gaze to another star, one fainter. The time its light has taken to reach you is longer, hundreds or thousands of years. You are looking back into history, but only just. If you could see the faintest galaxies your eyes could detect without a telescope, you would be looking back billions of years. And between those ancient glimmers lies blackness, not because there is nothing in that direction, but because the light there has not made it yet. The universe is full of messages you will never receive. The night is quiet, but it is not still. Somewhere above you, satellites drift, their presence betraying a flicker of movement against the stars. You can almost imagine the scene from above, the planet turning beneath its thin blanket of atmosphere, the thin line of light separating day from night sliding silently across oceans and continents. The darkness you lie under right now is sweeping over the world, replacing daylight for half the planet, only to retreat again in a matter of hours. But beyond that cycle, there is a deeper, permanent darkness that will never give way to day. You remember that even this darkness is not complete. Your eyes are blind to most of the light that exists. The sky above is filled with radio waves, microwaves, infrared glow, ultraviolet flares, X-rays, and gamma rays, forms of light that your body cannot detect without tools. If you could see them all at once, the night would be transformed. It would blaze with activity, every wavelength revealing something new. But your sight is limited, and so you experience only this one narrow band of the electromagnetic spectrum, a tiny slice of truth framed in black. And maybe that is a gift. Maybe the reason the sky looks the way it does is not because the universe was built for human eyes, but because human eyes were shaped by this sky. A black canvas with scattered points of light. A scene sparse enough to make each star matter, to make each one a question instead of just another part of a crowded field. The longer you watch, the more you feel the pull of the spaces between the stars. They are no longer just gaps. They are the majority. They are what defines the sky. The light is decoration. The darkness is the fabric. It stretches in every direction, around every galaxy, between every star, and inside every atom. The same emptiness that hangs above you is inside you too, in the spaces between your own particles. The paradox you began with, the question of why the sky is black, has become more than a matter of cosmology. It has become a mirror. If the universe were filled with light, unbroken and blinding, you would never see a single star. You would never see a galaxy. You would never know that space existed beyond the glow. The darkness is what gives the light meaning. Without it, there would be no sky at all, just brightness without contrast, existence without structure. Your eyes wander to the horizon again. The dark meets the earth there, blending with the shadowed shapes of whatever surrounds you. Somewhere far off, the faintest glow of human life might be visible. A town, a city, a solitary light in a window. Even here, in a universe whose blackness stretches forever, there is still light, and as long as there is light, there is something to see. The air is cooler now. The stars seem sharper. You wonder how many of them are already gone. Their light still on its way, still telling a story that is no longer true. The thought should feel sad, but instead it feels like an invitation. The sky is full of ghosts, but they are the kind that come bearing gifts. You stay like this for a while, letting the paradox dissolve into the simple act of looking. The question remains unanswered in the deepest sense, because the truth is, even knowing the physics, even tracing the history of the cosmos, there is still a part of you that doesn't want the darkness explained away. You want it to keep some of its strangeness, to keep calling you back to nights like this, where the simplest act in the universe is to lie still and look up. You stay on your back, the night stretching above you, and it begins to feel as though the sky is not something you are looking at, but something you are inside. The air is still cool against your skin, and the longer you lie there, the more the boundary between your body and the space around you seems to blur. Your breath slows. The stars no longer feel far away. They seem to hang at a distance you could almost reach if only you lifted your hand. But when you do, there is nothing to touch. Your hand moves through empty air, through the same kind of emptiness that separates those stars from one another, the same emptiness that has existed for almost the entire life of the universe. This is the quiet truth. The blackness above is not just in the farthest corners of the cosmos. It is in every space between every atom, between every particle of your own body. The darkness is not out there. It is everywhere. You let your hand fall back to the ground, and the question rises again. If the universe is infinite, if the stars go on without end, why doesn't their light fill all of it? You know the answer in words now. The speed of light, the age of the universe, the expansion that carries galaxies away. But the words do not cancel the feeling. The feeling is the same as when you first looked up as a child and noticed that the stars were swimming in a vast ocean of black. The feeling is that something is being kept from you. The more you think about it, the more you realize that the darkness is not just the absence of light. It is the record of time. Every star you see is an ancient flare in a sea of things that never had the chance to reach you. If you could see all the light that has been lost, all the photons stretched into invisibility, all the messages too far to deliver, the night sky would be endless and blinding. But you live in a small, bright pocket of space-time where the darkness wins. Somewhere beyond what you can see, there are stars so far away that their light will never arrive. They may be burning now. They may be dying. Their worlds may be circling in quiet or chaos. But for you, they are already gone. The darkness you see is the shadow of everything that will never cross the threshold into your sky. And yet, here, under this version of the night, you still have more light than you will ever be able to count. You can lie here until dawn and not exhaust the stars visible to your eyes. You can point a telescope into a patch of darkness, no larger than the moon, and find thousands of galaxies staring back. Even in this finite, limited space, there is more than enough to lose yourself in. The paradox is not that there is too little light. It is that there is too much to hold, and still the darkness swallows almost all of it. The ground beneath you is warm in places where it held the day's sun, cool where the shadows stretched. You close your eyes and imagine the earth turning, Your patch of night sliding across the globe while somewhere else, the day is beginning. The stars you see now are being hidden from someone else by the sun's glare. The darkness above you is not universal. It shifts, it moves, it trades places with light. But the deeper darkness, the one that lives beyond the reach of any star, is always there. You breathe in and hold it, feeling how the air fills your lungs before letting it go. That breath, the oxygen in it, was made in the heart of a star long ago, before the Earth was formed. The atoms in you, carbon, iron, calcium, were forged in light before they were locked into matter. You are not separate from the stars you are watching. You are one of their stories, told in a different shape. The night grows colder. The edges of the horizon fade as your eyes adjust fully, and more faint stars reveal themselves, as if they have been watching you all along, waiting for your attention. Each one is older than any human civilization. Each one is a signal from a place you will never visit, a point of origin you will never stand on, and each one is surrounded by the same blackness. It would be easy to think of that blackness as lonely, but as you keep looking, you realize it is the opposite. It is connection, the shared medium in which all things exist. It is the same darkness between you and the nearest tree, between Earth and the moon, between your sun and its nearest neighbor. The blackness is the stage on which every point of light performs. Without it, there would be no depth, no contrast, no way to know that the light is even there. You let your eyes unfocus, so the stars blur and the darkness takes over your vision entirely. In this soft blur, the paradox is no longer a puzzle to solve. It is just the nature of things. Light where you can see it, dark where you cannot, and no sharp edge between them. You could fall asleep like this. The cool air around you, the sound of your own breath, the sense that you are suspended in something both infinite and impossibly small. In this moment, the night sky is not an object of study. It is not a diagram to explain. It is simply there, holding you in its quiet, the way it has held every living thing that ever stopped to look up. The ground is gone. The air is gone. There is no sound, no wind, no horizon. You are adrift in the blackness you once only looked at from below. It is not above you anymore. It is around you, behind you, inside you. There is no up. There is no down. There is no place where light pools and another where it thins. The black is complete, and yet it is not empty. It carries you the way the ocean carries a drifting boat, steady and constant. At first it feels infinite in the way an empty room feels infinite. Too open, too still. But then, as your eyes adjust to nothingness, you begin to notice the faintest threads. Not light exactly, but the suggestion of light. Something far, far away, so far that it no longer has color or warmth. The photons from those sources have been stretched beyond recognition, pulled apart by billions of years of expansion. What you are sensing is not their glow, but the fact that they once glowed, a memory of light carried in the structure of space itself. You drift toward one of these faint threads, but distance is meaningless here. You will never reach it. No matter how far you travel, the expansion moves the thread away faster than you can follow. The paradox you began with on Earth, why the sky is black, echoes here in its purest form. Light is everywhere, but it cannot fill the black because the black keeps growing. You realize something else. You have crossed into a place where the concept of a sky no longer makes sense. A sky requires a surface to look from, a direction to look toward. Here, there is only immersion. You are not looking at the blackness, you are in it. And in this immersion, you understand why the blackness isn't frightening. It is the default. Light is the interruption, the brief flare that comes and goes. The blackness is what remains when the flare burns out. The blackness is steady, reliable, eternal. If you close your eyes here, nothing changes. The dark behind your eyelids is the same as the dark outside them. You are not shutting out anything by doing it. You are simply blending yourself into the background. Time moves differently here, or perhaps it does not move at all. There are no rising suns, no shifting shadows, no markers to measure one moment against another. A second feels like an hour feels like a second. You could be here for the rest of your life, or for the rest of the universe's life, and it would feel the same. Somewhere in this stillness, you remember the stars, not their shapes or names, but their existence, points of resistance against the dark, points that once seemed endless from the ground, but now feel impossibly rare. You realize that every one of those points you saw was a gift, a message from the narrow span of cosmic history when light could still cross the distance to reach you. The more you think about it, the more miraculous it feels. Here in the deep black, you know that future nights will be darker. The acceleration of space will carry more galaxies out of sight. Even the faint glow of the cosmic microwave background, the oldest light, will one day be stretched beyond detection. The universe will not run out of stars immediately, but the darkness will claim them one by one, not by extinguishing them, but by isolating them beyond communication. You float there, thinking of what it will be like for those who live in that future. If anyone does, they will look up into their own version of night and see fewer stars than you see now, fewer clues, less evidence that there is anything beyond their own galaxy. For them, the paradox you began with will not exist. The question will never be asked because the assumption of an infinite star-filled sky will never occur. For them, the blackness will not be a mystery. It will simply be the truth. The silence here is different from any silence you have known. On Earth, silence is never perfect. There is always the hum of life, the rush of air, the tiny sounds of a body still working. Here, silence is the absence of a medium for sound at all. It is not just quiet, it is the impossibility of noise. This silence does not end. It does not even begin. It simply is. You stay here until the concept of staying loses its meaning. You are not in a place, not moving between points. You are in the absence of place, and yet you are not lost. You cannot be lost in something that has no map, no landmarks. Eventually, without warning, the faintest glow begins to seep back into the blackness. It is not sudden or dramatic, just the tiniest shimmer at the edge of perception. You recognize it instantly. The first star in your field of view. You are returning, not to a specific point in space, but to a realm where stars exist again. 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 10. Soon the black is studded with small, bright interruptions. The familiar geometry of galaxies begins to emerge, spirals and clusters unfolding in the dark. You are back in the part of the universe where light still travels freely enough to reach you. And as you drift closer to Earth, the thin blue line of its atmosphere appears against the black. Below it, a scattering of lights marks the cities. Above it, the night sky you know returns. You lie on your back once more, and the black dome overhead looks the same as it did before, but it isn't. You have been inside it now. You have carried it with you. The sky is black because you are not seeing all there is. It is black because light is not instantaneous, and the universe is not eternal in the way your heart wants it to be. It is black because you live in a moment between two infinities, the one before the first light and the one after the last. And here, in the middle of those two infinities, you have something they do not, a night sky still alive with stars. You lie there a little longer, the grass cool beneath your palms, the air brushing against your skin in slow, gentle waves. The stars are fixed above you, though you know they're not fixed at all. They're drifting, burning, aging. You think about how far their light has traveled, the ancient paths it's taken to meet your eyes, and you think about all the other light that will never make the journey. The blackness between the stars no longer feels empty. You've seen what it really is, the record of a universe that had a beginning, the shadow of all the places light has yet to reach, and all the places it will never touch. It is not a failure of infinity, it is the shape of time itself. You close your eyes, and the darkness there is the same as the darkness above you. For a moment you cannot tell them apart. You feel as if you are floating again, not lost, but carried. The paradox that began as a question now feels like an answer. The sky is black because it cannot be otherwise. Not here, not now. Somewhere, beyond what you can see, stars are forming. Somewhere else, stars are dying, and between them stretches a silence older than both, a darkness that will outlast them all. You are alive in the small, improbable span when enough light has reached you to see the universe as more than just shadow that will not last forever. But tonight, it is enough. You open your eyes one last time, let them adjust to the night, and take in the scattering of light that still remains. You breathe it in like air, knowing it is finite, knowing it is fleeting, and knowing that the darkness that holds it is not your enemy. It is your reminder that every star you can see is a miracle of timing, distance, and chance. The universe is infinite. The sky is black, and you are here now in the narrow, luminous middle.